Have you ever noticed how people suddenly change when you stop letting them control you? What if I told you that when they can't manipulate you, they won't walk away? They'll attack differently. There's a quiet war happening, not outside, but inside your relationships, and you may not even see it coming. It starts subtly. At first, you think you're just standing up for yourself, setting boundaries, living your truth. But then, something shifts. You sense tension, cold stares, whispers, people twisting your words, spreading quiet doubts, making you question yourself. Sound familiar? That's not by accident. It's a tactic. You see, when people can no longer control you openly, they don't just walk away. Instead, they switch strategies: guilt-tripping, emotional blackmail, playing the victim, all just to pull you back into their web of influence, without ever looking like the villain. But Stoic philosophy reveals something powerful. True strength isn't about having power over others. It's about not letting others have power over you. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. Are you truly free, or are you still reacting to their hidden games without realizing it? Stay with me to the end, because the last strategy they use is the most dangerous of all. But first, let me tell you a story that brings this truth to life. Story: Adam and the Mentor. Adam was the kind of man who didn't follow the crowd. He walked his own path, stayed true to his values, and made decisions based on reason, not pressure. At work, his boss couldn't intimidate him. In friendships, he didn't cave to manipulation. Even in family, he set boundaries, clear, firm, and fair. He thought this would bring respect. But something strange happened instead. The same people who once admired him began to turn cold. His confident friends now called him selfish. His dependable colleagues started whispering behind his back, confused and frustrated. Adam went to visit someone he trusted, Mr. Carter, a wise, retired businessman. "Why is it," Adam asked, "that when I refuse to be controlled, people turn against me?" Mr. Carter just smiled and invited Adam into his backyard. There, 2 horses stood, one tied to a post, the other roaming freely. "Watch," Mr. Carter said. As he approached the tied horse, it didn't flinch, calm and still. But when he stepped toward the free horse, it backed away, alert and cautious. "Do you see?" Mr. Carter asked. "When people can tie you down, they feel secure. But when you're free, when you move on your own terms, they feel threatened. Because they can't predict you, can't control you." Adam narrowed his eyes. "So what do they do?" Mr. Carter sighed. "They don't try to free you. They try to break you. They'll call you difficult, arrogant, selfish. They'll twist your strength into something toxic. Not because you're wrong, but because your freedom reminds them of their own chains." And that night, Adam understood. People didn't turn against him because he was bad. They turned against him because they couldn't control him. So he stopped explaining himself, stopped chasing approval, stopped letting guilt shape his decisions. And in that silence, he found something more powerful than validation: peace and the strength to keep walking free, clear and unshaken. Sometimes, the price of freedom is watching the weak fall away, while the strong step forward in silence. After Adam stopped letting guilt run his life, something interesting happened. The manipulators left. The ones with weak minds faded quietly. But the truly strong, the ones who respected strength, stayed. Because, in the end, real strength respects strength. Before we dive into the first lesson, if these insights resonate with you, take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss the tools that help you protect your peace and sharpen your mind. Lesson 1. They try to manipulate you. Let's talk about what people do when they realize they can't control you anymore. They don't give up. They shift strategies. They move from overt control to covert manipulation. You see, some people crave control like air. They want to dictate your choices, shape your behavior, influence your thoughts, all to serve their needs. But when they realize you don't bend easily, that you stand firm and independent, they don't back off, they get more subtle. Instead of barking orders, they play with your emotions. They guilt trip you, they flatter you. They spin stories that make you feel responsible for their feelings. Ever heard things like, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me"? Or, "You're so good at this, I don't know what I'd do without you." If that doesn't work, they'll create urgency. They'll play the victim. Anything to make you feel like you owe them something. But here's the raw truth. It's never about mutual respect. It's about control disguised as care. And that's exactly where Stoic wisdom steps in. Lao Tzu once said, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." That's the key, self-mastery, because manipulators don't thrive on logic. They feed on emotion, guilt, fear, doubt. And the moment you recognize their tactics and stop reacting emotionally, you take their power away. Think of manipulation like a chess game. Every move they make is designed to provoke a reaction. They bait you, they test you, they hope you'll move the way they want, so they can win without ever being honest. But what happens if you don't react? What if you stay still, calm, and clear? You flip the board. You break the game. I remember a time I dealt with someone like this. They were clever, always twisting things to benefit themselves. One day, they asked me for a favor I wasn't comfortable with. I politely declined. They didn't lash out. They sighed and said, "Wow, I thought we were closer than that." Instantly, that familiar wave of guilt started creeping in, the urge to explain myself, to defend. But this time, I didn't. I paused. I looked at them calmly and said, "I know what you're doing." Just 6 words, everything changed. Their expression froze. They tried to laugh it off, stammering, uncomfortable. But I didn't follow their lead. I didn't explain. I didn't apologize, and that was the last time they tried to manipulate me. So how do you handle people like this? First, learn to spot their tactics. If someone's making you feel guilty, pressured, or obligated, pause and ask yourself, is this an honest request, or is this manipulation? Second, stay calm and grounded. The more neutral your energy, the less control they have. Finally, refuse to play. You don't have to defend, argue, or justify. You can simply say no and walk away. Because here's the truth. Manipulation only works if you engage. Once you stop explaining, stop reacting, and stop feeling responsible for someone else's emotions, they lose control. Master yourself. Stand firm, and remember, your choices belong to you. When you stop reacting to manipulation, they often resort to something even lower, attacking your reputation. When they can't control you directly, they try to control how others perceive you. It's no longer about truth, it's about power, and they'll do whatever it takes to get it, even if it means spreading lies. Lesson 2. They spread lies about you. Here's the reality. When someone doesn't have facts on their side, they resort to gossip, exaggeration, and outright fabrication. Why? Because they want you to react. They want you to panic, to rush, to defend yourself, to crumble under pressure. And the moment you do, they win. You've stepped into their game. But here's the truth you need to remember. Real power lies in not reacting. Imagine someone throwing mud at you. If you chase after them, trying to fight back, you'll only get messier. But if you stand still, let the mud dry, and then simply brush it off, you walk away clean, untouched, dignified. That's exactly how false narratives work. The more you fight them, the more you amplify the chaos. But if you stay calm, composed, and grounded, lies will fade out on their own. And this is where Stoic wisdom shines again. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are unaffected by what is said, you have already won." Think about that. Your silence is your victory. The moment you stop caring about what others say, you take away their control. Because the truth doesn't need defense. It speaks for itself. I remember a time someone deliberately spread false rumors about me. At first, my instinct was to correct every lie, to set the record straight. But then I stopped. Instead of reacting, I focused on being who I truly am, consistent in my actions, calm in my presence, steady in my values. And something amazing happened. The lies lost their grip. People began to see the truth, not because I explained, but because I lived it. And the person who spread the lies, eventually, they exposed themselves. Because lies have short lives, but truth endures forever. So how do you deal with people like this? First, don't engage. The moment you argue, you give power to the lie. Second, let your character speak. Truth doesn't need a defense. It proves itself with time. Lastly, remember this. People who spread lies reveal more about themselves than they ever do about you. At the end of the day, false words carry no weight unless you give them attention. So stand tall, stay silent, and watch the truth rise to the surface. Because those who rely on lies always lose in the end. Lesson 3. They play the victim now. Let's talk about one of the most manipulative tactics used when they can't control you, playing the victim. Instead of owning up to their actions, they flipped the script. They act as if they're the ones being hurt and seek sympathy from everyone around them. Why? Because if they can't control you, they'll try to control how others see you. Here's the truth. Playing the victim isn't about seeking justice. It's about avoiding accountability. These people twist facts, exaggerate situations, and present themselves as helpless, all to gain attention, support, and validation. And the more you try to explain or defend yourself, the worse it gets. Now you look like the aggressor, while they soak in the sympathy. Picture someone delivering an Oscar-worthy performance, casting themselves as the innocent one, while painting you as the villain. If you step on stage to argue, you become part of their show. But if you refuse to play along, the audience will eventually see the truth. When someone plays the victim, their real weapon isn't their words, it's your reaction. The moment you let their drama affect your emotions, they win. But if you stay calm, grounded, and allow time to reveal the truth, you strip away their power completely. I remember someone who had a pattern every time they were confronted. They'd suddenly become the victim. One day, after repeatedly crossing boundaries I had clearly set, I finally stood up for myself. And just like clockwork, instead of apologizing, they acted shocked. They told others that I had attacked them. Overnight, I became the bad guy. At first, I wanted to explain. I wanted to tell my side, defend my actions, but then I paused and chose not to. I let my actions speak louder than any defense. No arguing, no long explanations. I refused to feed their performance. And you know what happened? Slowly, people started seeing the truth for themselves. Because no matter how convincingly someone plays the victim, lies always unravel and real character always shines through. So how do you deal with people like this? First, don't engage. Arguing only makes you look guilty in their version of the story. Second, let their behavior expose them. The more they lie, the more obvious it becomes to everyone watching. Finally, protect your energy. You don't need to prove anything to people who already believe the worst. Because at the end of the day, manipulators weaponize victimhood, but only if you give them an audience. The best response: stay calm, stay quiet, let reality speak. Because in the end, truth always outlasts performance. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more insights that help you rise above emotional manipulation. Lesson 4. They try to isolate you. Let's talk about one of the most calculated, cold tactics manipulators use when they can't control you directly. They try to isolate you. Instead of confronting you face to face, they work behind the scenes. They twist your words, plant seeds of doubt, distort your story, all to turn others against you. Friends, colleagues, even family. Why? Because they fear your independence. They know that as long as you're surrounded by strong, supportive people, they can't get to you. So they set a new goal: cut off your support, make you feel alone. Here's the truth: isolation is a tactic. Of the weak, those who feed on control cannot stand someone who thinks for themselves. So they whisper. They stir division. They manipulate from the shadows. They want you to question who you can trust, doubt your self-worth, and ultimately feel so alone that you become easier to control. It's like watching a predator in the wild. Wolves don't attack the pack, they isolate one prey, separate it from the group. Because a lone target is easier to break down, manipulators do the same. They don't strike when you're protected. Instead, they spread rumors, stir conflict, and build walls between you and your allies. But once you recognize the pattern, you can break it. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Seneca once said, "Associate only with those who improve you. Avoid those who would pull you down." That's the key. Surround yourself with those who lift you up, not those who divide and manipulate. Real friends will see through the lies, and those who turn against you, they were never meant to stay. I once knew someone who tried this exact tactic. At first, it was small, casual comments like, "I'm not sure you can really trust them." Then came the exaggerations, the twisting of my words. Subtle at first, but persistent at the beginning. I felt frustrated, tempted to confront, to call them out publicly. But then I realized, the more I fought back, the more power I gave them. So instead, I focused on strengthening my real relationships. I stayed consistent in my words and actions. I let my character, not my defense, speak for me. And over time, people started seeing the truth. The ones who truly mattered, they stayed. The ones who believed the lies, they were never really with me to begin with. Hoes who walk away because of rumors were never meant to stay, and you don't need to chase them. Because, in the end, those who fear your independence will always try to isolate you. But they can't break what is unshakable. So stay strong, hold tight to your real connections, and remember, Real relationships don't fall apart because of someone else's lies. Lesson 5. They challenge your confidence now. Let's talk about another tactic, subtle but incredibly dangerous, used when someone can't control you directly. They start to undermine your confidence. They won't attack you outright. Instead, they plant doubt. They question your decisions, make you second-guess yourself, and slowly chip away at your belief in your own abilities. Why? Because if they can make you doubt yourself, they regain control. Here's the truth. People who constantly question your confidence aren't offering advice or helpful feedback. They're testing your self-belief. They want you to hesitate, to seek their approval, to second-guess your every move, because the more unsure you are, the easier you are to influence. Think of it like this. You're walking across a bridge. It feels solid, strong, but someone nearby keeps saying, "Are you sure it can hold you? What if it collapses?" At first, you're confident, but the more they talk, the more uneasy you feel. Not because the bridge is weak, but because they've made you question something that was never a problem. That's how confidence works. Your judgment is sound, but manipulators try to shake it on purpose. Their trick is doubt. Your strength is in recognizing it and moving forward anyway. And this is where Stoic wisdom reminds us. Epictetus once said, "A person's worth is not determined by external approval." True confidence doesn't come from agreement. It comes from trusting yourself. The moment you stop seeking validation and stand by your own choices, you become unshakable. I remember going through something like this. Someone kept questioning every decision I made. Every time I chose something, they'd raise an eyebrow. "Are you sure? That seems risky." At first, I tried to explain, to defend my choices, to prove I was making the right call. But eventually, I realized they weren't asking because they knew better. They were doing it to make me unsure. So one day, I stopped explaining. I simply said, "Yes, I'm sure." That's it. No debate, no justification. And you know what? They had nothing left to say, because confidence doesn't need to argue. It just stands firm. So how do you handle people like this? First, trust yourself. If your decision is based on reason and experience, don't let someone else's doubt shake your foundation. Second, stop over-explaining. The more you try to justify yourself, the more they'll find holes to poke through your certainty. And finally, remember this. Their doubt is their tool, not your truth. Just because someone questions you doesn't mean you're wrong. Because in the end, your confidence is your power. People will test it, challenge it, try to weaken it, but only if you allow them to. Stand firm, trust yourself, and never let someone else's doubt become your belief. When they can't shake your confidence, they target something even deeper. Your emotions, if they can't control your logic, can't make you doubt your decisions. They go for what's primal. They provoke you. And this is one of the oldest manipulation tricks in the book. Get you angry, reactive, emotional. Because once they've got a rise out of you, they regain control. Lesson 6. They provoke you emotionally when someone realizes they can't win with reason or strategy. They switch to chaos. They poke. They prod. They say things designed to insult, frustrate, or enrage, not because they want a resolution, but because they want a reaction. Why? Because if they can't win with facts, they'll try to win by dragging you down emotionally. They want you to explode, because if you lose your cool, they win the narrative. But here's the truth. Your calm is their defeat. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your greatest armor. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That's the key, refusing to react the way they expect. The moment you stay calm in the face of provocation, you strip them of their only weapon. You remain in control. They walk away not victorious, but frustrated. I remember once, someone tried to bait me into an argument. They insulted me. They twisted old stories. They even brought up past mistakes. Anything to get under my skin. And yes, I could feel it. The anger rising. The instinct to lash out. But instead of reacting, I took a breath, looked them in the eyes, and simply said, "Interesting perspective." That's it. No defense, no explanation, just stillness. You know what happened? They froze. They didn't know what to do, because they expected a fire and got silence. That was the moment I realized, staying calm isn't weakness, it's power. So how do you deal with people like this? First, recognize the game. If someone keeps pushing your buttons, pause and ask yourself, do they actually want a conversation? Or are they just trying to provoke me? Second, control your response. When you feel your emotions rising, take a breath before you speak. Don't let them drive the moment. And finally, know when to walk away. Not every battle deserves your energy. Sometimes, the strongest move is no move at all, because, here's the truth, your emotions belong to you, no one else. And when someone tries to provoke you, stay calm, stay centered. Let them exhaust themselves trying, because in the end, the strongest person in the room is always the one who refuses to be controlled. If you've watched this far and found value in these insights, don't forget to leave a comment saying "Thank God I saw this," and give the video a like. Your support means more than you know. It keeps this message alive and helps us all grow stronger together. Lesson 7. They copy you now. Let's talk about a behavior that's equally frustrating and revealing. When people start copying you at first, it might seem harmless, maybe even flattering. You take a bold step, they take one too. You launch an idea, they suddenly act like it was theirs all along. But then you realize, they're not trying to compete anymore. They're trying to be you. When they can't provoke you, they copy you, but imitation only goes so far. And the truth is, the more you evolve, the harder it becomes for them to keep up. Because at the core, imitation isn't admiration, it's insecurity. They mimic you because they don't believe they're enough on their own. But remember this, copies fade, originals endure, so keep being yourself, keep moving forward, and let the imitators struggle in your shadow. Because no one can replace what makes you unique. Lesson 8. They wait for you to fail now. Let's talk about one of the harshest truths. Some people don't really support you. They just act like they do. They smile to your face. They nod at your dreams. They even say, "I'm happy for you." But deep down, they're not hoping you rise. They're silently waiting for you to fall. Why? Because your success challenges them. And if they can't beat you, they'd rather see you stumble. They'd rather watch you lose than face their own lack of progress. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some people aren't clapping for you. They're keeping score. They don't celebrate your wins because they believe in you. They do it because they're waiting to say, "I knew it," the moment you slip. But here's where they always fail. Because real success doesn't need their approval. It comes from something deeper. Your foundation, picture a storm, and 2 trees. The weak one bends and breaks in the wind. But the one with deep, steady roots, it stands tall. No matter how fierce the storm, the people hoping for your downfall are just like that wind. Loud, constant, but powerless to break you, unless you let them. The stronger your roots, the less their noise matters. And again, Stoic wisdom reminds us of what's essential. I remember once, someone tried to bait me into an argument. They insulted me. They twisted old stories. They even brought up past mistakes. Anything to get under my skin. And yes, I could feel it. The anger rising. The instinct to lash out. But instead of reacting, I took a breath, looked them in the eyes, and simply said, "Interesting perspective." That's it. No defense, no explanation, just stillness. You know what happened? They froze. They didn't know what to do, because they expected a fire and got silence. That was the moment I realized, staying calm isn't weakness, it's power. So how do you deal with people like this? First, recognize the game. If someone keeps pushing your buttons, pause and ask yourself, do they actually want a conversation? Or are they just trying to provoke me? Second, control your response. When you feel your emotions rising, take a breath before you speak. Don't let them drive the moment. And finally, know when to walk away. Not every battle deserves your energy. Sometimes, the strongest move is no move at all, because, here's the truth, your emotions belong to you, no one else. And when someone tries to provoke you, stay calm, stay centered. Let them exhaust themselves trying, because in the end, the strongest person in the room is always the one who refuses to be controlled. If you've watched this far and found value in these insights, don't forget to leave a comment saying "Thank God I saw this," and give the video a like. Your support means more than you know. It keeps this message alive and helps us all grow stronger together. Lesson 7. They copy you now. Let's talk about a behavior that's equally frustrating and revealing. When people start copying you at first, it might seem harmless, maybe even flattering. You take a bold step, they take one too. You launch an idea, they suddenly act like it was theirs all along. But then you realize, they're not trying to compete anymore. They're trying to be you. When they can't provoke you, they copy you, but imitation only goes so far. And the truth is, the more you evolve, the harder it becomes for them to keep up. Because at the core, imitation isn't admiration. It's insecurity. They mimic you because they don't believe they're enough on their own. But remember this, copies fade. Originals endure, so keep being yourself. Keep moving forward, and let the imitators struggle in your shadow. Because no one can replace what makes you unique. Lesson 8. They wait for you to fail now. Let's talk about one of the harshest truths. Some people don't really support you. They just act like they do. They smile to your face. They nod at your dreams. They even say, "I'm happy for you." But deep down, they're not hoping you rise. They're silently waiting for you to fall. Why? Because your success challenges them. And if they can't beat you, they'd rather see you stumble. They'd rather watch you lose than face their own lack of progress. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some people aren't clapping for you. They're keeping score. They don't celebrate your wins because they believe in you. They do it because they're waiting to say, "I knew it," the moment you slip. But here's where they always fail. Because real success doesn't need their approval. It comes from something deeper. Your foundation, picture a storm, and 2 trees. The weak one bends and breaks in the wind. But the one with deep, steady roots, it stands tall. No matter how fierce the storm, the people hoping for your downfall are just like that wind. Loud, constant, but powerless to break you, unless you let them. The stronger your roots, the less their noise matters. And again, Stoic wisdom reminds us of what's essential. Epictetus once said, "Do not waste energy on those who hope for your downfall. Your focus should be on growth, not proving anyone wrong." Success isn't about revenge. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, for yourself. I remember someone in my life who pretended to be supportive. They'd say things like, "Are you sure this will work?" Or, I hope you make it. But let's see. At first, I brushed it off. But over time, I noticed a pattern. They weren't cheering for me, they were waiting for me to mess up. And when I hit a rough patch, they were quick to say, "See, I told you it wasn't going to be easy." That's when it clicked. They never believed in me. They were just waiting for my failure to confirm their doubt. So I stopped explaining. I stopped seeking their validation. And I focused on my journey. Know what happened? I succeeded. And their silence afterwards said more than their fake support ever could. So how do you deal with people like this? First, recognize the signs. If someone only shows up when you're struggling, but disappears when you win, that's a red flag. Second, stop wasting energy trying to prove yourself. Your success is for you, not for them. And finally, let your progress be the answer. Keep moving, keep growing, keep becoming, because nothing frustrates them more than watching you rise when they swore you'd fall at the end of the day. Some people treat your journey like a show, just waiting for the moment you crash. Don't give them the satisfaction. Succeed anyway. Rise higher. Prove them wrong by not needing to.